Greetings, sports fans. We are the Sports Kings from Queens. I'm Gino, joined by my co-hosts Kevin and Darren. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd. This is episode 166. Please catch us wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram. Give us a look. Join our pages. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to leave us some questions and comments. We'll be sure to get back to you. Tonight, we go around the world of sports, and then we tackle the NFL draft, which starts tomorrow night in Green Bay. We're going to start it off with the NBA playoffs. Most of these teams have played either one or two games. Locally, the Knicks tied 1-1 after two games. Kev, let's start it off.
They're very lucky to be tied 1-1, to be honest with you.
Very lucky.
They did not play well in game one. And it took a 21-0 run in the fourth quarter to pull that game out. Otherwise, they're looking at 0-2. Brunson started off ice cold, wound up with 34 by the end of the game. He played real well there. Game two, they lose 194. And that one, again, Brunson had another 37. But this game, they could not contain Cunningham. He had 33 points, 12 rebounds. And they didn't utilize Karl Anthony Towns enough. He was 5 for 11 for 10 points. You've got to get a lot more production. You got to get Towns the ball a lot more and get him a lot more than just 11 shots. So, like I said, it's early, it's 1-1, but going into Detroit, they need to play a hell of a lot better than they did. And then they're in trouble because they can't afford to let the series go long. Because if this goes 6 or 7 games, if they get dragged out in this round, they've got no chance in the next round.
They've lost 7 of the 8 quarters they've played. If it wasn't for the fourth quarter of game one, they're down 2-0 right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. But and the other thing is that, game one, you had Campaign show up. You had a couple of guys play well. Campaign played, 6 minutes in game two? Come on,
Tibbs. That's Tibbs.
I know,
but he's so damn stubborn with his rotations, and it gets worse in playoff time.
That's what's going to get him fired at some point.
Yeah.
It is, Darren.
Yeah, I mean, Cat not getting shots is the key to game two. Here's the thing. You're right, Kev. I mean, they should be down 2-0. I mean, Gino, you said the same thing as well, basically. Detroit getting to the line more. Detroit beating them on the offensive glass. Bridges struggling down the stretch. He was having a decent shooting game until the fourth quarter. He missed his last 4 shots in big spots. Now, Anunoby doesn't really show up to shoot in a big spot. They don't look to Cat. It's not like Brunson's just holding the ball and they're standing around. He is trying to get people involved. But the fact is that nobody seems to want to take the shot. The only guy that they're not getting the ball to is Cat, who's the other guy you have to get the ball to. I want to see Cat or Brunson. The good teams find a way to get their 2 best scorers the ball down the stretch. The Knicks are not doing that. They're finding a way to get Brunson the ball down the stretch. If they don't utilize Karl Anthony Towns, it's a waste. Because right now they're losing the battle on the glass. They're forcing turnovers. They really are. They got to capitalize a little bit more on those and just, really own it by about 15 points a game rather than by like 5 or 7. And they got to contain Schroeder and Tobias Harris. I mean, I know that you want to let those guys beat you, but right now they are. Yeah. Tobias Harris is shooting well. Schroeder's shooting well.
I mean, Schroeder game 2 at 20?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a difference.
I mean, and the fact of the matter is the Knicks, they were behind the whole game. They came back and finally tied it. And you figure, okay, just like game one, they'll pull away here. But Detroit answers. Yeah. Detroit knocks them down and takes the lead, and the Knicks never get the lead. They never got it in front. And, unfortunately, Bridges missed 4 shots in the last 4 minutes of that game. They set him up, but I don't want it to be Bridges. I don't think you guys want it to be Bridges. We want it to be Towns. That's why Towns was brought here. Bridges for defense and to be the third scorer, Towns to be the other offensive option. And if they're not going to do that, they're not going to win this series. And this should be a series that they got through in 5. Now you're lucky to get through it in 6. You're lucky to win this series the way you're playing through the first 2 games, to be honest with you. But now you have to think about trying to limit it to 6 so you have a shot against Boston in the next round, who I think is going to breeze right through Orlando.
I mean, we were all looking at next 4 or 5 games, I think, in our predictions. I think
I had 5.
I think I had 5. Gino, did you have the sweep or 5?
5.
Okay.
5.
And, again, the thought is Boston tonight, as we're recording now, they're up 10 with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter against Orlando, and that's without Tatum. There's no reason to believe that Boston will not sweep Orlando. and a well-rested Boston team against a Knicks team that has to go 6 or 7 games if it gets to that far. I mean that's and with Tibbs with his rotation or lack of rotation, Knicks are going to be dead for the next round.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Boston. It's like you have the unicorn in Porzingis is hard enough to guard. You have the best player on the court who's going to be Tatum, not Brunson.
Yep.
And if they're more rested than you are, Kev, you're 100% right. There's no chance. G.
Towns averaging 25 a game in the regular season needs to give that to you in the playoffs every game. This is not where he it can't be that he's on the bench and not giving you that amount. He needs those shots. He has to put that up for you to win. And then the other thing, and this is going a little off on a tangent, but in game 2, the refs let them play. A lot of hard bumping and movement and hand checking, and everybody knew they were letting it go. But yet, and I like Josh Hart, but why do I got to see Josh Hart like throwing his hands up every 2 minutes? Like every 2 minutes, he's throwing his hands. Listen, if they didn't call it the whole game, Kev, it'd be one thing. They've been tight all game, and now all of a sudden they're letting it go. Okay, fine. But the whole game, they let this stuff go the whole game.
Yeah.
There were these hard bumps, these hard, uncalled fouls is how I will phrase it. That could be fouls, maybe not fouls, depending on how hard you want to let them play. But, I don't need Hart to be putting his hands up every time. Josh, just play.
Yep.
Exactly. Well, Cunningham was getting the calls, though, G. Cunningham was getting the calls when he drove. The Knicks really weren't. Brunson was not getting the calls that Cunningham was.
No, but that's no. The point is, though, is that they were playing a very hard game, and the refs were calling it really hard both ways. They were letting a lot of stuff go. And it wasn't like, Hart put his hands up at the 2-minute mark. No, in the last 6 minutes, Hart put his hands up 8 times. You can't be every time.
I get it, but Tibbs complained about it afterwards too because it was a bit of a foul shot differentiation for the home team. Usually doesn't happen.
Yep.
And the Bridges point, I like Bridges, and you're right, okay, but he's got to hit some of these shots. At some point, the amount of money the Knicks are paying him, he's got to hit some of these shots. And I know he should be the third option. I get it, but in any case. He's got to hit he looks like he's just coming up blank right now.
He's good most of the game, and then, like Darren said, the last couple of minutes, he just disappeared.
It's horrible.
He didn't really disappear. He actually stood out because he missed every shot that was there.
Well,
I wish he disappeared like that.
But
the fact that they're not trying to find Cat, they have Cat standing in a corner. Stop. Listen, there's nobody on Detroit that he has to guard where he's a liability, okay? Duran's going to score on him. Duran's going to score. He's not going to. He's going to get offensive rebounds. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
There's nobody down low that scares you on Detroit. It's the wings that have been getting you. So let Cat do his thing. Go to him. Play the 2-man game. I don't understand why they can't do that.
All right.
Yep.
Game 3 tomorrow night. Kev, where else? You want to go around the rest of the East real quick?
We want to. Going into tonight, we've got. Hold on, I'm pulling up the bracket right now. Boston's playing right now. They're up 1-0 already. Good chance to win game 2. Cavs also playing game 2. It looks like they'll go up 2-0 on the Heat. Indianapolis has won both home games against Milwaukee 2-0. They're up. But again, that's a series that we both predicted going long, and the series doesn't begin until the road team loses, right? Or the home team loses.
Yep. Absolutely. Quick point on the Pacers Bucks game 1 specifically because I saw some stat line I've never seen before. Kyle Kuzma played 22 minutes, 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 blocks, 0 steals in 22 minutes. Most minutes ever in a playoff game without recording a stat. He did have 2 fouls, but they don't count that as a stat line. In game 2, he did come back with 12 points, but I've never seen that in 22 minutes. In my life, we're talking about Cat being invisible. Kyle Kuzma was counted on by this team. They got blown out, but 22 minutes, zeros across the board. I just had to point that out.
Indy Milwaukee is 1-1.
No, 2-2-0. 2-0 Indy.
2-0. Indy,
2-0
Milwaukee,
Indy,
2-0.
I forgot. Yes.
But like I said, that's one until a home team loses. I'm not counting Milwaukee out yet. I mean, we all three of us thought this was going along, and
Yeah.
it's still set up to go along.
Yeah, the best player on the court is going to be in Milwaukee. The more complete team is Indiana. Let's see how it goes out.
Yep.
All right. Out
The
west
West is more intriguing, though.
Yeah.
Start it up, Dick.
No, I mean, listen. Right now, the T-Wolves, a 1-1. They got the win in LA in Game 1, despite the foul calls being like 22-10 or 22-9 or something for the Lakers. It was almost like it was 8-on-5. But Minnesota was hitting every shot. They did not win Game 2. They shot poorly, but Minnesota really established themselves in that series. It's going to make it a longer series. And Doncic had a huge Game 1, but at the same time, they did victimize him defensively. They did what they had to do. The best series so far, and it's only 2 games, has been the Clippers and the Nuggets. First game went to overtime. Second game came down to the wire. The line for Kawhi Leonard, 15 for 19 from the floor, 4 for 7 from 3, 39 points. I mean, that's about as efficient as you get.
Yeah.
He missed 1 2-pointer. He missed 3. He had 4 or 7 from 3, and the Clippers hold on and they win that game. Down the stretch, he looked dynamic. Again, I mean, it's a home loss, but you feel like with Jokic on Denver, anything can happen. I just didn't like the coaching move that they did close to the end, but that series is 1-1.
Yep.
Golden State and Houston already chippy 1-0, Game 2 tonight. We'll see what happens there. And the Thunder up 2-0, and they're not going to be threatened. I mean, Ja Morant's a great player, but there's no way that they can compete with OKC at this level at this point right now. So that's kind of where the West is sitting right now.
All right. Kev, anything you want to add?
Nope.
No, we're good.
No,
Just
I
one
think
other
we're good with the
NBA
NBA.
stat line. I'm sorry, Kev.
I think we're good with the NBA.
Yeah, just one last stat line. I was looking this up. I didn't realize this. Carmelo Anthony, because we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, only player to win NBA Rookie of the Month in every single month of a season and not win Rookie of the Year.
Wow.
LeBron won Rookie of the Year, but they each won. One won the East, one won the West every single month. And just an interesting stat. I saw that. I was like, I had to reread it like 3 times. I'm like, wait a second. LeBron didn't win once? No, they had him separate, East-West, East-West. But Carmelo won every single month, but he did not win the Rookie of the Year.
Wow.
Just thought it was an interesting stat.
Wow.
All right, let's move to the NHL. Same scenario as the NBA. Everybody's played at least one. Some teams have played 2. Kev, where do you want to start? East, West?
Local. I mean, we've got Hurricanes and Devils. That could be a quick discussion. The Devils have been purely outclassed the first 2 games. They've lost 4-1 and 3-1. And in our write-ups on Facebook, we all predicted 4, maybe the Devils squeak one out, but I think we all pretty much thought it was likely a sweep. Without Hughes, the Devils just are not the same team, and the Hurricanes are just outclass them. And so far, the series has proven that.
No Dougie Hamilton back there, kind of sitting there leveling things out for them either. And without Hughes, it just looks like Carolina's that much faster. And the Devils aren't slow. It's just that, you watch that Jarvis line with Aho and all these guys just skating circles around the Devils. And Hischier is a good player, and all these guys are good players, but they're missing the leader.
Yep.
And it hasn't even been bad goaltending. I think Markstrom's been good.
Well, Game 1, the Devils were outshot Game 1, 45-24. I mean, they went to the second period where they had like 3 shots on goal. It was horrible.
That Carolina forecheck is just killing them, and they don't know how to answer.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the East, Toronto leads Ottawa 2-0. No surprise there, I don't think.
That series has been unbelievably physical and nasty already, though. I enjoy it.
Yeah,
they hate each other. It's Canadian teams going at each other. I love it. Very physical.
Toronto, Ontario. It's Ottawa and Ontario. Yeah. I mean, it's just a local. It's
the Battle of Ontario.
Close to Islanders Rangers, I think, as you get in Canada.
It's right there.
At least in the East there. Lightning lead 1-0 on the Panthers. Game 2 tomorrow night. So it's
not other way around. Panthers lead 1-0.
I mean, Panthers lead 1-0. Yep. I'm sorry.
But listen, Panthers scored 6 goals on 16 shots last night. You don't see that often on Vasilevsky. I mean, they weren't like soft goals, all of them, but 16 shots on goal, 6 goals. You didn't expect that.
And tonight they're in the middle of the third period. Capitals are up 2-1. They won Game 1. I thought the best thing was Sean McDonough announcing the game with mentioning in overtime, about the only thing Ovechkin hasn't done yet in his career is score an overtime goal in the playoffs. A minute later, Ovechkin scores
Check.
overtime goal.
Check that box.
To be honest, Washington got a very friendly whistle in game one. I thought they got away with a couple of penalties that could have been called on them. You know what though? They're the 1 seed. They're at home, and they got the advantage in that one.
Yep. Any other points in the East?
Not really. It's so early. We're going to see how these series play out. I mean, again, Ottawa's got to answer at home. They're down 2-0. They're the only one that's down 2. Montreal could fall down 2-0 tonight.
Yep. Darren, out West?
Yeah, West. I mean, Winnipeg, who escaped both games, actually. St. Louis played them tight in both games, but Winnipeg had a big third period in game 1, held on in game 2. They're out 2-0. LA's only played one game so far with Edmonton, and it was that usual low-scoring game you expect from Edmonton. I think it was 6-5.
6-5.
But LA up 1-0 in that one. The Wild pulled a little stunner last night. They kind of controlled the game against Vegas, 1-5-2. To even that series up. And some of us, I thought the series would go 6, but I thought the Wild would win a couple of games, at least one of the games at home. I didn't think they'd win any of the first 2, so I was surprised at that. And then the series that everybody's watching the most is the Stars and the Avalanche. And the Avalanche looked great in game 1, steamrolled them. Game 2, the Stars were down, but came back. Listen, the reason I like the Stars in the series is because of Ottinger. I think he's just a little bit of a edge over Blackwood in net. But, the Avalanche is so strong. They're so talented. And, we just don't know what is going to happen with that series. I think that series goes 7. I think it's an epic first-round series.
Yep.
Okay. Any other points on hockey before we move?
Yeah. Let's talk about Laviolette. Gone. New York Rangers. All it takes is one bad year in hockey.
Yeah.
and Laviolette is gone.
And done.
Yeah, pretty much. But they extended Drury today. So, but Laviolette was let go. So the Rangers are in search of new coaches. One of the guys you see right away is Tortorella. You're like, really? They're going to go back down that road? But you never know what happens in hockey. These guys get recycled. It's a bunch of Billy Martins that just get rehired over and over again. We'll see what happens there.
How many coaches can Chris Drury pick?
Apparently, as many as he wants.
I mean,
he has pictures of somebody doing something.
He was part of the front office that hired David Quinn.
Yep.
When he became GM, he fired him. Bernard Gallant, he was fired after 2 years. Bernard Laviolette, President's Cup last year, no playoffs this year. They underperformed, no doubt about it. Fired him. So that's 3 coaches fired in 4 years. And then he gave him an extension?
Yeah, I was stunned that he got extended today.
I mean, just incredible.
And then Lou, it's about time for Lou. Listen, he had a Hall of Fame career, built the Devils dynasty, did good things up in Toronto, had the Islanders competitive for a couple of years. You can't even say he didn't. So he did a good job here, as though, he didn't win the cup here, didn't win the cup in Toronto like everybody hoped. But he was very, very competitive early on. Maybe a little slow to pull the trigger, Kev, over the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's been my big complaint since we've been doing the podcast for the last 2-3 years here. It's been, come on, Lou, we got to change up this roster. I mean, it was the same roster that, look, he came in here, the Islanders were a nothing franchise. And he got them turned around, and, they made back-to-back Stanley Cup semifinals, lost to the eventual Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning both years.
Yep.
And they were not talent-wise equal. They did everything they could, but they were not as good as Tampa.
Yeah. And they never and Lou never made the changes that were required after, those 2 runs. I could see running it back one more time. But then after that, it's like your window's closing and it's time to start to turn over the roster. And that was my biggest beef with him the last 2-3 years was just you're starting to get an older roster and you're not getting the turnover, especially on the bottom 6. And, unfortunately, it didn't end as well as it started. But, you, as an Islander fan, you thank Lou for what he did and brought the Islanders some relevance for a couple of years there.
He's a young 82.
No doubt.
But we still need, I think, some new blood in here now.
Oh, no doubt about it.
And maybe with new blood will come the changes that you've been talking about for 2 years now, Kev, specifically at the trade deadline.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it, and I don't want to rehash it. The Brock Nelson trade was a great trade, but you have Lee and Palmieri and some of these other guys. You could have gotten something, and he just sat on his hands and did nothing.
Yep.
One
right.
on the hockey note too.
Yeah,
Speaking
Kev.
of Islanders, under Lamoriello, he didn't play this past year, but officially Cal Clutterbuck put in his papers. He's officially retired from the NHL now. Since hits became a stat in 2005, an official stat, he is the all-time leader in the National Hockey League in hits.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So Cal goes out with a record. Good for him.
You'll laugh at this, but I have 4 quick points on the NHL, and then I'm going to let you
Go
guys
for
go
it.
to the next thing.
Go for it.
First of all, there's a reason why the NHL is so awesome and why I love the NHL players and I love the league so much. First and foremost, the Vegas players, after the final game against Vancouver, went to the Vancouver bench and all shook hands with Canucks trainer Pat O'Neill, who retired after 45 years. The whole team goes over and shakes hands with the trainer of Vancouver. Just a classy move. Love that. Then at the last game, the Islanders' last game, Matt Martin against Columbus, he played one season with James Van Riemsdyk in Toronto, and they became close. Van Riemsdyk wouldn't let Martin leave the ice. He wanted to shake his hand. Then the entire Columbus Blue Jacket team came over and shook Matt Martin's hand in the thought that this might be his last game in the NHL.
Wow.
Matt Martin's a gritty kind of – he's no superstar, okay? But he's a gritty kind of guy that played the game right, and people respected him for it. This one I'm going to tout a Calgary Flame player. Rasmus Anderson, okay, broke his fibula blocking a shot against Seattle. He played the next 12 games on that broken fibula. Didn't say anything because the team needed him as he was trying to get them into the playoffs. He did sit out the finale as it was not – they were eliminated from the playoffs and they were no longer in playoff contention. But a guy that does it like that is the kind of guy you love. You knew he was skating a little slow. You thought he was injured. I didn't know he had a broken freaking fibula until the last game.
Is that the lower body injury?
Lower body injury. You figure he just took a shot and he probably had a bruise because he's playing broken fibula for 12 games. Not just one, 12 freaking games because he wanted to make the playoffs so badly. And they did set the record for most points ever by a team not to make the playoffs. Go Flames, go. Finally, just a little tribute to a guy that you guys don't love, but I do. Sam Rosen retired as the voice of the Rangers after 40 years. Goes out with a win. Listen, you know what? He's a voice of New York. He's a loyal Ranger guy, not a bad guy at all, not a bad announcer in any way, but you guys hate the Rangers. Sam Rosen deserves a little respect for 40 years as the voice of the Rangers. Kenny Albert will take over, son of Marv, who was the voice before Sam.
It's a power play goal. F you, Sam Rosen.
Exactly. But hockey has so many great things about it, though, and the respect that the players show each other and they show the other organizations is always something that's really, really cool to me.
I like what you did there.
I did it on purpose. Do it for the organization.
That's right.
All right, let's head over to baseball. Mets, Yankees, both playing well. Mets at this point after today, 18-7. Yankees at 15-10. Kev, Mets.
As of 8:45 p.m. tonight, when I was preparing for the podcast, the Mets own the best record in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, Padres lost today, so they're going to be a game up.
Yeah. 7 in a row, 7-0 homestand, swept 4 games from the Cardinals, and then finally they get their first true challenge of the year. They played the Phillies 3 games and they win all 3 games. The pitching dominated games 1 and 2, and they got enough offense. And then game 3 today, Beatty with the early 2-run home run. Phillies do come back and tie it. They score 1 in the 10th with the ghost runner, but then Alonso and Starling Marte deliver the big hits in the 10th, and the Mets wind up sweeping the Phillies.
Mets are the first team in the modern era. That means 1901 and on. They have their starting pitchers allow fewer than 15 runs and no homers in their first 11 home games.
Wow.
They've allowed 13 runs, no homers. Only team since 1901 to do that. I guess that pitching clinic's working.
I guess so. A 2.37 team ERA, which is about 0.4 better than the Padres, who are number 2.
Yeah, Padres are pitching great, but runs against, they're really close. I think the Mets have an edge on them by about 2 runs, but it's really close.
Yeah, Lindor, much better April than he's been in his career so far. He's over 300, delivering big hits, especially last week and a half. Alonso has continued a terrific April. They've been able to do this without any contributions really from Soto. The rest of the lineup, they get a key hit here or there from a guy. But, it's really been Lindor, Alonso, and the pitching staff.
And
And,
Vientos is starting to hit a little bit too, which is nice. A
with
little bit. He's not there yet, but he's a little bit.
I said it last week, and we're all traditional home runs, RBIs, batting average. We appreciate on base and slugging to a degree. All these other stats, hard hit velocity, hard hit percentage, barrel rate. I think
those are all
they
Geno
are
stats.
when you use them to see, yes, Vientos batting average is under 200. But when you look at the other stats, just to say, why is he hitting under 200? Well, his batting average in balls in play was under 200 as well. You look at the average exit velocity, it's about normal. This one's no. He's hitting it to bad luck. That's when you appreciate those other stats to figure out why is he struggling. Is he struggling because he sucks, or is he struggling because he's been unlucky? And I think Vientos has been more unlucky than some other guys who might be, sitting there with 50 at bats with 25 strikeouts, and you go, yeah, he sucks. That's when you use those other stats. So Vientos has been more unlucky, and like I said, a couple of home runs this week, another key hit last night, and to me, with all the stats and with all the computer stuff, post game last night, Mendoza was asked. It was a close game still. Why'd you let Torrens hit? Torrens had the big hit last night. Why'd you let him hit? I don't know. I felt it. I felt like the situation. I felt like he could go up there and have a good at bat. I'd rather have that answer from a manager than, well, the book told me I should do this and do that. Sometimes you have to have a feel for the game and see what's going on in the field and play your hunches that way. That to me is a sense that you don't get from all managers.
And you certainly don't get it across to the Bronx.
And you certainly don't get it from the guy sitting here with the Washington logo behind him. By the way, in the baseball preview, when we talked about the Mets,
yeah,
didn't one of us bring up the fact that Vientos had a very high batting average balls in play last year?
No, I don't remember.
Yes, I did.
It was Gino that brought it up.
Of course he did.
He had one of the highest around.
Yeah.
So the fact that he has now one of the lowest doesn't surprise me because those things usually come back and average out.
But over the course of the season, it'll average out.
You hope, but I agree. Yes. Darren, Yankees?
Okay, so they salvaged game 3 of the series against Cleveland. Rodon was great again today.
Yeah.
Aaron Judge, once again, solidifying he's the best player in baseball. I'm sorry. I mean, no matter how great everybody else is playing, Aaron Judge is hitting 411. His on base is over 500. Goldschmidt's the other guy hitting on this team. And then you get guys like Volpe and Bellinger and Chisholm and Wells who are not hitting 200. So, I mean, they just can't get enough offense out of everybody. Obviously, the Devin Williams thing is starting to rear its head a little bit. Gave up 4 runs the other day. Otherwise, they would have had a 4-game sweep against Tampa Bay. But he gave up 4 runs, and they lost an extra innings in the Saturday game. They'll need Devin to be better. Excuse me. Cruz, the pickup they got from Cincinnati, has been lights out. Weaver's been great. The rest of the pen has been solid as hell. Fried has been outstanding. He's been, he had a near no-hitter the other day. Fried has been outstanding. So a lot of good things happening with the Yankees. Clark Schmidt's return is important to this team. Now it's just putting it all together. Listen, they're it's early in the season. They need people to help out Judge and Goldschmidt, who are 1-2 in the American League in hitting right now. They just need everybody else to start hitting 200. Dominguez is over 200. Nobody else really is in the regular lineup, and that's a major problem for this team. Yeah, I mean, you hope that you get the starting pitching continues to be as good as it is with Rodon and Fried. And, Warren continues to battle for you a little bit, and Schmidt gets better as we go along, and the bullpen continues to be good, and Devin Williams finds his way. That's really kind of where we are with the Yanks right now. A lot of good names on the roster, but just not hitting.
Biggest Yankee surprise, Ben Rice?
Well, Ben Rice has been outstanding. I didn't mean to skip him, actually, but just because he hasn't played in every single game. But he's been the people, the Yankee fans are acting like morons. He's the best 22 in New York. No, he's not. Get over yourself. Ben Rice has Kevin Moss written all over him. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Unless he starts catching again and play, people aren't picking up fantasy for the full year yet. So let's not go nuts on Ben Rice. But it's nice to see his start, Gino. You're 100% right.
Yeah, I
He's
mean,
been playing really well.
It's only 25 games, so it's only 15% of the season. Let's everybody relax. Too long of a season, but listen, both New York teams off good. Mets off unbelievable right now. Yankees playing well.
To make Gino happy, DJ LeMahieu home run his first rehab game.
He'll be up here in no time.
He'll be ready to play first and third there for you, G.
So, Gino, do you want Arenado still or no?
Yes.
Kevin, do you want Arenado and move Vantios to DH?
Yeah, I would take that.
I think both teams are in line for Arenado. That's the reason why I brought it up.
Yep.
I think if there were two teams that are in line for Arenado, I think it's the two New York teams that could do it.
The last rumor I read said that St. Louis wants to dump Miles Mikolas's contract with Arenado in a trade, and I will happily take him as a sixth starter on the Yankees. If that is
and the Mets would probably let him go to the clinic too and become a
absolutely.
starter. So
absolutely.
I'm not trying to be funny. This clinic seems to be working. I think both teams would take Mikolas, I just think he's a guy that both teams would be in line for.
Can Mikolas go more than 6 innings occasionally? Because that's the one thing that scares me with this start is that the Mets pitchers, the starters, will not refuse to pitch more than 6 innings. This bullpen is going to burn out if they're not careful.
They're playing well. They're pitching well right now, that pen, but you want to keep it that way. You want to keep them sharp, but not too sharp. You want a day off every now and again.
Yeah.
The Yankees have a little more depth in the pen than the Mets do at this point because they can go to a Cruz who doesn't pitch every day, or they can now slot Williams in the spot just to kind of see what he's got. And then the Mets don't have that luxury yet, but it could develop. We'll see what happens as the season goes on.
All right. Any other baseball points?
Just one stat of the week. 50 years ago, that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. The great Herb Washington of the Oakland A's. Okay. He played in 105 games. Do you know how many plate appearances he had?
Was that the year he had 0?
Oh, his whole career, he had 0.
Yeah.
In 105 games over 2 years, he never had a plate appearance. He scored 33 runs. He stole 31 bases, was caught 17 times, so the percentage isn't great. And he's the only player ever with a Topps baseball card to have position listed as pinch runner. And that would be our stat on Major League Baseball.
That would be Charlie Finley's Oakland A's.
Absolutely.
I got one other baseball point.
Sure.
A while ago, I had talked about the fact that the Paul Skeens baseball card with the Pittsburgh Pirates offering that huge package. So the kid that put it at auction, it got sold for $1.5 million. Do you know who bought that card?
Nope.
Former Major League pitcher Jason Grilli.
Really?
He's got $1.5 million sitting around. Wow.
And Jason Grilli sold it back to the Pirates for that deal. And we'll put this up on Facebook. He was shown with his lifetime pass. It looks like a little credit card sitting behind home plate. He took his son to the game to see Paul Skeens pitch. So I figured I'd throw that up there because I thought that's a good ending to that whole story about that baseball card. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. One quick college baseball note before we get off baseball. Ole Miss catcher Austin Fawley hit a grand slam in the first inning of a game over the weekend.
Yep.
Pretty cool, right? The real cool part is his mother caught the home run.
Yep.
That's awesome.
You can't make that up. It's freaking awesome. Austin Frawley. So, again, not somebody we have no idea if he'll ever make it to the major leagues, but imagine your mom catching your grand slam. I thought it was pretty cool.
Pretty awesome.
And that's it for baseball for me, guys.
All right. Any other points before we get to the NFL draft?
Well, I got a little college football, if you guys want to touch down on that first, or you want to do it last?
No, hit it.
College football.
Okay, college football. Nico heads to UCLA. So after all that drama, Nico ends up with less money, paying more taxes, and he will be in California now. Also, at the same time, his brother Madden also transferred to UCLA from Arkansas, where Arkansas is trying to sue him for something because they felt like he breached a contract with them of some sort. So now both the brothers are at UCLA. UCLA's quarterback, Aguilar, ends up at Tennessee for about $1.2 million. So Tennessee saves a little money. Now, Aguilar on paper is not as good as Nico is. But once again, we talked about it. We'll see how Nico does with a less talented team like UCLA. But the odds for winning the SEC, Tennessee's dropped, and UCLA's odds for the Big Ten went up. So we'll see what happens there. At this point in time, 2,900 players have entered the college football transfer portal. It is freaking nuts. And to the point where Jordan Seaton, an offensive lineman for Colorado, said the sport is crazy right now. Can't even build a brotherhood anymore. Too much I and me in this sport. It's a young man that kind of has it together. And then and another tragic note in college football, Missouri State safety Todrick McGee dies from an accidental gunshot wound. 22 years old, way too young for that. Again, you don't like to see that. I guess playing with handling a gun and mishandled it, apparently, from what I understand. I don't know all the details of it. But yeah, college football is a little crazy right now.
Wow.
Have anything else on college football?
Nope.
College basketball?
Okay, college basketball real quick. So 2,400 players have entered the portal. But the portal ended today. You know what's funny about college basketball? Players have entered the portal that have no eligibility left. I guess they're trying to see if they can figure out a way to get another year. They have no eligibility left. Several players. It's not one or two. There's like 40 of them that entered the portal with no eligibility. I don't understand it. St. John's had two more major commitments today. This week, I should say. Ian Jackson comes in from Carolina. He was playing wing there. They're going to play him at the point here, from what I understand. And he has the ability to play point guard. And they picked up Dylan Mitchell, who's a power forward from Cincinnati, who's that athletic type player that Pitino loves. That's going to be, one of those guys that's running all over the place and diving all over the place. The St. John's team is going to be sick next year, guys. It's going to be really good. And the other rumor is Boogie Flan, who's the point guard at Arkansas. He entered the portal, and there's a lot of rumors that he wants to play with Jackson. They're both from the Bronx, and he wants to play with him at St. John's. St. John's is one of, I think it's 9 schools that are spending $10 million plus in basketball. There are 9 that have that kind of budget. St. John's is one of those 9. There's a bunch of other schools with about $8 million. St. John's has 10 because of Rapoli.
But again, the big advantage, don't have to worry about football for St. John's.
Exactly. Every dollar goes to the hoops program. Like Villanova's at like $8 million, which isn't bad because there's no money going to the program. No money goes to football really. And it's a totally different game right now.
Unbelievable.
But, and also just to point it out, it's not just the men. Over 1,500 women have entered the portal. So something's got to be done. We talked about it a little bit last week, G. Either contracts or salary caps or something, because right now you don't even know who's on your team. And now if the player's starting to hold out, now Nico lost on his holdout. But imagine there was a major quarterback that got hurt in spring games. It's going to happen one year where somebody pulls out and someone's going to get overpaid because I just lost my starting quarterback and I could get that guy. And I'm not saying it's wrong that they get paid, but I think we have to find a way to regulate it because it's getting to be a little bit out of hand.
Yeah, it's out of hand now. This is total chaos with all these kids everywhere. Wow.
Absolutely. It's a little nuts.
All right. NFL draft tomorrow. Green Bay, Wisconsin. Because nothing says the NFL draft like Green Bay, Wisconsin.
They don't have enough hotels for everybody. I'm making it up. I have no idea. They're going to the Twin Cities of Appleton and Oshkosh for it.
We're going to get started. Before we get started, couple of notes. Yes. Scouts Incorporated, which does all of the draft grades for the draftable grades for all these players for the NFL, lists 31 running backs with draftable grades this year. It is the most since 1994 when they had since 1994, only 2 drafts have had 30 running backs or more listed with draftable grades. So it just tells you how deep it is. If you take every active player in the NFL in 2024, 63% of them were guys drafted in rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. So just a couple of notes. And on the quarterback piece, at least 3 quarterbacks have been selected in the first round in 8 of the last 9 drafts. So just a couple of hits right off the bat before we get into this.
Yeah, one point on to touch on your point, G. The running game seems to be more prevalent in the NFL over the last couple of years, and I think we're starting to see that now, where teams they don't have the workhorse like they used to. Now they have 2 running back committees and stuff, but we are seeing more running the ball, and I think that helps with the grading process because, once again, running backs' shelf life, I should say, not life shelf, but shelf life is about 4 or 5 years. So usually most of them don't get beyond that first contract. So you just keep recycling and reshuffling and getting these kids in here and letting them run as hard as they can for 4 years, and then you move on.
Okay. All right. So we flipped coins, and Darren, you wound up with the first pick. I have the second pick. Kev, the third pick, and we'll just continue in that circle. We're going to do the top 12. We'll throw in comments when we get to the Giants, the Jets. We'll stop. We'll talk a little bit about them. Tennessee will start the draft. They're on the board first. Darren?
This is the biggest non-secret of all time here, because Cam Ward actually came out and talked about how the running game of Sharp and Pollard might be the best in the NFL. Then he talked about how Ridley is better than A.J. Brown. So I think he knows he's going to Tennessee. Callahan's an offensive mind. He has weapons, but Will Levis was not the answer. Has not panned out. So enter Cam Ward. He will be the first pick in the NFL draft. Very anticlimactic. I pass it to you, Gino, with Cleveland on the clock.
Cleveland, from everything we're seeing, is going to take one of the best players available in the draft. They're going to take Travis Hunter, wide receiver, cornerback. They're going to use them all over the place. We'll see what they actually use them for, how much they actually use them at wide receiver, on defense. We'll see how many number of plays, but the second pick's going to be Travis Hunter going to Cleveland. Kev?
Now with the Giants at number 3, they've got some needs, obviously. Now they've solidified their quarterback with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, so that leaves them unlikely to take Sanders there. I think they are definitely one along with the Browns. If somebody has fallen in love with Sanders for some reason and want to trade up, these are 2 teams that would be thrilled to trade back from 2 or 3 for that Godfather offer. Giants need help all over the place, even though this may not be the biggest position of need. I don't think there's any reason for them not to take Abdul Carter, the edge from Penn State. He's the best pure pass rusher in this draft, and he can terrorize the opposing quarterback.
Yeah, you combine him with Burns and Thibodeau, and they have a great pass rush outside. You have Dexter Lawrence, big sexy inside. It solidifies this team, actually. It helps them tremendously.
Do you see anywhere else the Giants would go?
No, I think it's too early for Sanders, in my opinion. Gino, what do you think?
So I don't see any other way for them to go here other than a trade. However, at what point are they going to bring in a quarterback with one of these top 5 draft choices over the last 3 or 4 years? Because, and I'm not saying that this is the year, because I think Sanders is a first round. I don't think he's a top 3 pick. And from everything I see, Carter and Hunter are probably the 2 best players in this draft, and you're not going to pass that up. I get it. But bringing Carter here for, I don't know, give me a great number, 9 sacks, doesn't change the fact that you're probably only winning 5 or 6 games. You're still searching for the quarterback. The big thing to ask you guys is, the Giants are going to have to get a young quarterback in this draft.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Well, rumors that we've heard is that they are trying, and that's the word I'm going to use, to trade into the back half of the first round to draft somebody.
Yep.
But, I get Abdul Carter here. I understand it because I don't think any of the other quarterbacks represent the 3rd pick in this draft. But at some point, they're going to have to start focusing on because I got news for you. They don't get a quarterback that plays well. Dable's not here next year. Shane isn't here next year. So you
That's why they signed. That's why they signed both Winston and they signed Russell Wilson, because they want to hope that one of those two guys pans out for a year, which is not really ideal for the organization going forward. Notice how I changed it back for the American sport.
But Darren, even in best case scenario, and one of those guys plays well, what are you talking? 8 wins, 9 wins? This is still not a good football team. So, at some point they're going to have to bite the bullet and draft one of these quarterbacks somewhere. And again, I don't think this is the year, just so that we're clear.
Here's the question, though. Do you think that Shedeur Sanders is head and shoulders above Jackson Dart?
No, and that's why I said that. That's exactly why I said that.
Kyler Schlo, or maybe they have a great grade in the second or third round on some kid that we're not looking at. That's what we're going to find out. The Giants have to draft a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. They really do. Yep. They can't not draft a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. There's no way for them to avoid it, so they will have to draft a young quarterback here. They've made the determination that Tommy DeVito is not the guy. I'm not trying to insult Tommy DeVito when I say that. Just they're not giving him the opportunity. They didn't really give it to him last year, so they obviously don't think that highly of him. And I don't think he's really the guy either. They have to draft one of those guys in the top 2 rounds. What it comes down to is right now you got to get the best football player you can get on this roster, and maybe the defense makes a difference. They know that they have to chase around a guy like Jaden Daniels. They know they have to chase around a guy like Jalen Hurts. They know they have to go up against offensive lines that are tremendous, like Philadelphia's. Dallas, not as good as it used to be, but still solid. Washington's is improving. We'll see how it goes as the year goes on. So I think that they feel like they have to get stronger defensively to compete with these teams a little bit. And Abdul Carter stands out compared to a lot of the other guys in this draft right now.
The Giants' second pick will be a quarterback.
It has to be.
The only question is, are they going to trade up? How far does Dart fall down in the first round? And, you look at these grades, from everything you read, Dart would be nowhere near the first-round pick last year. But because he's the third-best quarterback probably in this draft, he may wind up going first round. If he falls down to the second round, he's not getting by the Browns or the Giants, one of those 2 teams. No doubt about it.
For all we know that they love Jalen Milroe. For all we know they love him. I have no idea. I mean, they might love the athleticism and think that they can teach him how to throw. They might see something with his footwork they say they can work with really quickly. We don't know because he has all the athletic tools.
But if you get a guy like Milroe, if you want to work with him, because you have Wilson and Winston, you can be patient with Milroe and let him develop and try to work out some of the flaws if you see any.
Well, can Dable be patient, though? I mean, at some point he's getting fired, Kev. Unless there's some crazy season in store for the New York Giants, he's getting fired by the end of the year. So I don't know how
Mara basically said he should have been fired last year by saying I'm not really happy about it. I'm like, what the hell was that?
I hear you, but that's my only point with this.
I would fire him last year. I would start fresh.
Kevin, so would all of us.
Yeah.
And then the Carter pick makes more sense. Because then you're rebuilding your stuff. All right. 4th pick on the board, Darren?
Yeah, the New England Patriots. And this is the nightmare for the Patriots because they wanted one of the last 2 guys taken, most likely. They were hoping Shedeur goes. But they're going to end up, I think, with offensive lineman Will Campbell. Short arms, I get it, the whole thing. Simple fact of the matter is he started as a freshman at LSU. He was really good. This year had probably a little bit more trouble than usual just because he seemed like they said he was not playing as on his toes as much as he had in the past, but everything that tells you he's the best guy that they could get. They need to protect Drake May. They have weaknesses on both lines of scrimmage, and they will go take Will Campbell. And then the 5th pick, here's the first, one where it gets a little confusing, Gino. Let's go to Jacksonville because there's a couple different guys that have been rumored here.
And I am going to shake it up because based on the last day and a half, I think they're taking Ashton Jeanty. I think they're taking the running back. Listen, from everything we're reading, they love the fact that he's the first one in the dressing room, the last one to leave. They need weapons. Jacksonville is a team that, they're going to need a wide receiver at some point in this draft. They're going to need a tight end somewhere. They need help. I think it's Ashton Jeanty to Jacksonville with the 5th pick.
Well, here's the thing about that. Trevor Lawrence has kind of regressed, I guess, from where we had him up there a couple of years ago. They need to get him weapons, like you said. The other thing that's interesting is that Etienne's in his final year of his deal.
Yep.
So they're going to need the running back after this year as well. So that'll be interesting. And Liam Cohen's an offensive guy, and he's taking over. So let's see what happens. Kev.
Sorry, Kev. I probably threw the monkey wrench. I know.
Yeah, you threw the monkey wrench there. I had them all set there. The Raiders, with Pete Carroll, they made the trade for Geno Smith. They had the worst running backs last year. Raheem Mostert they brought in. Nice piece of the puzzle, not the answer. This is where Gianti I had going, but obviously he's no longer on the board. I think they keep building, and this is going to throw a monkey wrench in Darren's plans, maybe. I think instead they'll build in the trenches here. I think they'll take Membu instead, the tackle from Missouri.
No, listen, I thought that he could go there. And we'll get to the Jets now. I mean, the Jets have needs. Tons of them, right?
Oh, do they?
So, to me, 2 of the 3 guys I wanted are still left, okay? Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State, was one I really liked. I also love the idea of the disruptive force in the middle of the defensive line with the kid out of Michigan, and I'm blanking on his name for some stupid Mason Graham. Sorry.
Mason Graham.
Well, those would be the 2 guys that I would be between, Nembo being the third. I'm going to take Tyler Warren. Yep. I'm going to say that they give him the weapon this year. Again, if he's trying to go after his Detroit model, does he want to get, that disruptive force in the middle of the defensive line? Does he want to have another Sam Laporta type as an offensive weapon? I think he's going to go for that Sam Laporta type, even though Warren might even be a little bit more athletic than him. I think that he's the guy that goes here. I take Tyler Warren. I run up and hand him my ticket in about 4 seconds if he's still on the board.
Now, if it plays differently and Membu's still there instead of Warren, which way do you go? I think
I had Warren down regardless.
You had Warren down regardless.
I had Warren and I had Membu on the board still. I had all 3 guys on the board, and I had Warren down. Kev,
both of those guys are on the board. Who do you think they're taking?
I love Warren. I really do. I think, yes, I know right tackle is a huge need. Morgan Moses left after the season this year. They need some more offensive line help, but boy, Warren can be so he can line up all over the place. You can split him out wide. You can line up in tight. You can play the H-back. I mean, he's just a weapon. And the Jets have not had a weapon like this in a while.
Listen, I agree with you. And honestly, I've seen all the mock drafts everywhere with Membu, and I was like, wow, I'm so surprised that it's not Warren there, because that's the guy that just, from everything we see, is a disruptive force. He's going to catch passes. He's going to help block, So,
and I'm expecting, by the way, that Arante Ersary from Minnesota, Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, they're both going to probably be there in the second round for the Jets. These are guys that have good grades, that are starters. Like, if you play tackle at Minnesota, you can run block.
Yep.
I'm just being honest, because that's what they're going to do. PJ Fleck's going to hand the ball off 800 times. And if you play offensive tackle at Ohio State, you have to be somewhat elite as well with running and pass blocking. And I expect both of those guys to be there in the second round. So if I can get my tackle in the second round, even though the one thing I'm missing now is I'm missing that defensive tackle, I need to go next to Quinnen Williams, which I would have loved to have had. But I think that's more of a luxury right now. I think I have to go for the talent.
Okay. All right, which leads us to number 8, Darren. I'm sorry, that's me.
That's you, actually, pal.
Carolina. I think they want someone for the defensive line. From everything I looked, they really want one of these edge rushers. It looks like it could be Mike Green or James Pierce. I think they take Mike Green with this pick.
Wow.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's Mason Graham there, by the way. They put him next to Derek Brown in the middle and really clog it up. But I can see any of those needs happening. They need D-line, they need wide receiver, they need safety. They need a lot. They also need to get some weapons for the young quarterback as well, Bryce Young. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I was looking at weapon. I was looking at Jelon Walker there, the edge from Georgia.
Yep.
But you're going Green there. Okay.
Number 9, Kev.
Boy, now this gets really interesting with Graham still there, with Walker still there. Here's where you're looking at the uncertainty, too, with Derek Carr at quarterback. right now, as much as I'd love to see him win the starting job, their quarterback room is Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, pretty much.
It'd be hard to pass up on them, even though they've got Graham and Walker out there. But I think this is where I don't think Sanders gets by here. I think the Saints really, really need a quarterback. They need to make sure they get one here with the uncertainty for Carr. I'm taking Shedeur Sanders here for the Saints.
I completely agree with that pick, by the way.
They need cornerback. They need O-line, but I think the biggest thing that they need is a quarterback right now. So that I think that helps. So we go to 10 in Chicago. And there's a couple of ways to go. You know what? I'm between the two Georgia guys, okay? Yep. I'm between Jalon Walker and Michael Williams. And Michael Williams, I should say. But I'm going to take Jalen Walker right now as the guy that they go with. What I think he's just I think he goes on the long side, Montez Sweat. The other side, I think he's an athletic freak. I think that I think he gets the job done for them, and I think he improves them immediately. So I'm going to go defense with Chicago. I'm going to go with Jalen Walker here.
All right, coming back to me at 11, San Francisco on the board. I think this is where Mason Graham goes finally. I don't think San Francisco lets him get past 11 at that point. All indications, Kev, were that we thought he could go 5 to Jacksonville.
Yeah. And that changed in the last 2 days.
Yeah, I don't think San Francisco lets him get past 11. So
San Fran's with all the guys that they've lost this offseason and real overhaul of their roster, they need help all over the place. Yep. And if you've got a guy that, like you said, in the last day or two, all of a sudden is not guaranteed to go 5 to Jacksonville, if he's still there at 11, boy, that just seems to be too good of a value to pass up.
I agree.
The other guy that I could see going there, a Michigan kid also, Will Johnson, the cornerback, because they're going to need help back there as well. Those are the two guys I'm between at that spot. But yeah, I listen. If the Jets ended up with Mason Graham at 7, I wouldn't be upset. That's how much I like Mason Graham.
Okay.
So Kev, you close it up with the 12th.
Boy, the America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, they need some help along the front. They could use another weapon across from CeeDee Lamb. Boy, this really opens up. There's some good players there for them. You've still got, like you mentioned before, Williams. I think they go for the weapon here, and one of the most productive receivers we've had over the last couple of years in college football. I'm going to take Tatara McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona.
Easy for you to say.
Easy for me to say.
Funnest thing about this kid, he doesn't like watching film.
I mean,
I'd rather play the game. But you know what? He's a freak athlete, and him alongside CeeDee Lamb just seems like who are you gonna cover?
Who can you cover? I mean, Kelvin Banks, I think, is in play there. You've got Tyler Booker from Alabama. You've got Golden, the wide receiver from Texas. They're in play. You've even got Hampton if they want to improve the running back position, the running back from UNC. So I think Dallas is here in really great shape of having their pick of who they want.
I agree. Listen, there's a lot of good players that didn't make our little list here.
Yep.
Like Mikel Williams, Jackson Dart, Shamar Stewart, Colton Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan, Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss, Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle out of Oregon. A lot of defensive tackles. Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State, who they say is the best route runner in this draft. Jahad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama. Your guy, Nick Emawari out of South Carolina, the safety. That
easy for me to say.
Easy for me to say. And Manwari, right? Am I wrong? I don't know.
Emanwari, yep.
Emanwari. Jahdae Barron, the cornerback out of Texas. Malachi Starks, the safety out of Georgia. There's so many guys that could slip into the top 12 that I just mentioned. If a team wants a quarterback, they could trade up and bring Jackson Dart in as a top 12 pick. Or if New Orleans likes him better than Shedeur. Anything can happen here. G?
How many quarterbacks do you guys think get drafted in the first round?
3.
I think this is something really sneaky, and I'm going to say 5.
Wow.
Who
are the other two?
Because I think a couple of these teams that draft early in that second round are going to wind up trading up like the Giants. I think one of these, the Giants, the Browns, some of these teams are going to be aching because they're going to know that their guy, whoever that is, whether it's Dart or Milrow or the guy from Louisville. How do you say his last name? Shoei?
Schlau.
Slough?
Schlau. I know Schlau, but I'm not sure. He was at Purdue, then he went to Louisville. I watched him play. I've seen his name. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah. So I'm going to say 5 because I think some of these teams are going to get afraid that the guy they actually now want to play quarterback is not going to make it to them in the second round. Washington, they draft 29. Everything I see says they love Shamar Stewart at the edge. Or they want one of those wide receivers to fall. Whether it's Ibuka, whether it's Golden, whether it's Luther Burden, they want one of those guys to fall. But here's my surprise pick. I hope they take Trevion Henderson.
You want the running back?
Wow.
I want the running back to pit with my guy, Jaden Daniels, back there. But I can see them doing that. Listen, they have a first, they have a second. They don't have a third, Washington. And then they have 4, 5, 6, 7. So, they got 6 of the 7 rounds covered. I think they get out of here with a couple of linemen. But I do think a running back and wide receiver get drafted. Now, they may pass. I think if one of the wide receivers they like in that first round is there, they're taking them. And then they'll worry about one of these other running backs in the second round because there's just so many running backs, that could get drafted. With no third round pick, I don't know if they wait to the fourth round, which is for them is 128 overall, but it could happen.
But
so
boy, wouldn't they love to trade back to Cleveland spot, top of the second round, and pick up a third rounder at the very least?
Absolutely, Kev.
No brainer if they can do it.
Do me a favor. Tell Shane he can call us too, okay? All right. Although he's probably
I think Eminwari could be a guy for you, by the way, Gino. I think that you could. I think that guy Eminwari could be a guy that could fall there.
He's a terrific player.
He's a safety. He hits like a truck. Yeah. And he runs fast. He runs a 4.38. You know what I mean?
4 picks last year, 2 of them returned for touchdowns. It's like a mother. Can cover. Yes, I've watched him play a little bit.
Kev,
the kid can play.
Exactly what you said was what I was talking about when I said 5 quarterbacks in the first round, because I do think that the phone is waiting for a call, Kev.
You could see both quarterbacks fall into the top 2 picks of the second round, though. You could see Milrow or Dart falling into the first 2 picks and nobody trading up. It's going to be interesting to see.
So here's the thing, right, Darren? If you and Kev both think 3 quarterbacks, right? So Ward, Sanders, Dart. I'm assuming you two think are probably the 3, right?
Probably.
Okay, so fine.
Yeah,
so
it could be Milrow if somebody falls in love with his talent. That's the other guy.
No, but wait. So 3 of them go in the first round. And the Giants and Cleveland at the top of that second round are saying, oh, shit, we like Milrow, we like Slowey, whoever we like. What happens if somebody jumps ahead at the end of that first round? And that's why I think you're going to get a couple more quarterbacks off the board, more than 3.
Yeah,
that's the only reason.
He's also trading out in the same way at 31. Because they need to get more depth, too. They have a lot of spots that they could kind of improve on as well.
Jets have a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. They have 2 5s, 2 6s. So they're going to come out of here with a number of players.
Yeah, we're going to see what Muji's draft philosophy is this year. We're going to see what Aaron Glenn wants to do. Apparently, no nonsense guy. If you listen to Aaron Rodgers on McAfee show last week.
Listen, if that's true, and listen, I'm all in on Aaron Glenn, so don't take it the wrong way. I don't like making a guy fly across country to be a douche to him. If he's not exaggerating, if he's exaggerating, it's one thing. If he's not, just call him up and say, listen, we're going in a different direction. There's no reason for you to fly here. There's no reason not to be a classy organization at the same time. Reminds me of the Mets making Billy fly out there to get fired in L.A. Sometimes some things you just shouldn't do, which is wrong. But listen, I wanted Rodgers here, but I'm all in on Aaron Glenn. I'm all in on Muji. Listen, I need to come out of this draft with I need the playmaking tight end. I need another receiver to go on the other side of Garrett Wilson. I need a right tackle, and I need a defensive tackle. Everything else you can fill in however you like. Another cornerback would be fine. Running back is the strength. It's the only position I don't have to draft this year. And we'll see what happens.
The Jets have 8 draft picks in 6 rounds. Okay.
Yep.
Do you think they draft a quarterback somewhere?
Oh, no doubt.
I think they will. I think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be somebody in the first 2 though rounds. I think
agree.
it would be.
I would agree with that. It's just a general question. Do you guys have any feel for who you think the Giants like? And gun to your head, which quarterback do you think the Giants wind up drafting?
Jalen Milroe.
I think, I was leaning that way. I personally like Jackson Dart better because I've seen him be productive there. But when you look at what, especially Daniels, to a little lesser extent, Hurts can do with their athleticism, with their ability to move, you see that in the division. That's what Milroe can bring to your team.
If I tell you Ward, Sanders, Dart are all off the board with the first 15 picks, Giants are looking for the quarterback. Do you think it's Milroe?
I think it's Milroe.
I think it's Milroe.
I think it's because he has the athleticism to step in right away if they needed to save their jobs.
Okay.
He may not be accurate passing the ball, but he can run like a deer, and he's going to be a hard worker, and he learned under a couple of big-time coaches, and that insist upon hard work and preparation. And you feel like with guys like Winston and Wilson, he can learn.
Okay. You are a team in the 3rd round. Ward, Sanders, Dart, Slowey, Milroe, all off the board. Do you guys like any of these quarterbacks? Dylan Gabriel, Kyle McCord, Will Howard, Quinn Ewers.
I like 2 of those guys. I like McCord, and I like – who's the second guy you said? I'm sorry, I'm blanking for a second.
Gabriel, McCord, Howard, and Ewers.
Oh, Howard would be the other guy. Howard has a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's talking about how he's writing down every team that passes up on him. I kind of like guys with that little bit of a chip. I'm not sold on Ewers. I didn't love what I saw from him last year. Riley Leonard I also put in that class, but I don't love him either. I think McCord has a big-time arm. I like him the best.
I
would take him as a guy. I would take him as a 3rd or 4th round pick with the Jets.
I hate to keep saying I agree with you, Darren, but yeah, McCord would be my guy there of those 4. Gabriel goes out there and plays well. I know he's a little undersized, but you get him in the right scheme. I would take Gabriel too. I would take a flyer on him. I think
very accurate.
Out of that group of 5, if you include like a Riley Leonard in there too, I would go McCord then Gabriel 1, 2.
All right, I got one last one for you both.
Yep.
Where do you think Cam Scatterbo gets drafted? Round 2 or round 3?
3.
Because that's the name that I keep hearing on a lot of these stupid message boards that is moving up everyone's draft.
I think he's a 3.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to be able to run over everybody as easily in the next level as he did at this level, but it wouldn't stun me.
Boy, you get late 2nd round. You get these good teams coming back around late 2nd round who are drafting weapons. Maybe at that point, they may not have the needs that other teams do. Scatterbo might be that luxury guy that you draft in the 2nd round late. So I think he could sneak into the 2nd round that way.
I heard one guy, one of these draft guys compare his skills to Mr. Christian McCaffrey, and I kind of chuckled a little bit. I didn't see that, but
a poor man's Christian McCaffrey.
He's faster than you think, but he's not as quick as McCaffrey. I mean, listen, we look at him, we think more like Mike Allstott. Than we think of Christian McCaffrey. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Good hands, good balance, runs hard. It doesn't have to be a white guy we're comparing him to either. It just happened to be that way. It could be Matt Forte the same way, by the way. Runs hard, good balance. It could be Matt Forte as well. I don't have to compare him just to white players.
All right. Any other follow-up last minute draft points, anything before we leave, guys?
No,
On the
I just
draft,
think
no?
that it should be fun. We'll be posting and telling you our feelings about the Jets pick as soon as they happen, right, Kev?
Yep.
We'll be jumping on there. I'm sure Gino will jump on about Washington.
Gino will be up late waiting for that Washington pick.
Gino will be the only one up late. I'll be out cold.
Giants 3, Jets 7. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of New York viewership in the first 7 rounds, first 7 picks, rather. So
absolutely. One last point before we wrap up, guys. Mike Patrick, legendary announcer, passes away at 80 years old. 36 years at ESPN, 18 years was the voice of Sunday Night Football.
Yep.
The voice that we kind of grew up with. We heard Mike Patrick do a lot of college basketball, a lot of football games, college football and pro. True professional. Just a voice of our youth, guys.
Yep,
absolutely.
And another unfortunate death, Steve Mongo McMichael, member of the 46th defense for the Bears, dies at 67 from ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. I didn't realize second in Bears history with 92.5 sacks.
He was a beast.
He was I think severely overrated. He finally made the Hall of Fame in 2023 after being diagnosed.
You mean underrated, right?
I mean underrated. Yes, I'm sorry. And of course, as Gino's putting up this, he was a member of the WCW from 96 to 99, a member of the Four Horsemen with Ric Flair, and was the U.S. heavyweight champion in WCW to add to his Hall of Fame football career.
He was part of that 85 Bears defense, and Richard Dent is number 1. He's number 2 in the sacks on that team, and great player, great player. You guys have anything else before we wrap up?
No, that's it.
All right. We are the Sports Kings from Queens. I'm Darren here with Kevin, here with Gino, talking about the wonderful, wild, and wacky world of sports. A wacky world where the Jets Super Bowl every year is in April as we await the draft. Please download the podcast anywhere you can get a podcast, whether it be an Apple product, Spotify, TuneIn, whatever you like. We post a lot on social. Please like our stuff. Please share our stuff. Please follow us. Watch us on YouTube. Watch our videos. Share those too. And without any further ado, let your sports be with you.